Taking a look at a rather unusual GTX 35, and customer brought this to me today. Has a couple problems. It's been hanging around in his closet for a few years. For one main problem, it's a beautiful guitar. Looks like a maple transparent top. Nice, very nice guitar. A few things I saw right away that we talked about. We took the strings off. This pick was in backwards. His complaint was the action was too high, and one big problem up here. Let's see if I can get it on the camera. So right here, it's a nasty crack where his ex-wife threw the guitar down a staircase, and he wanted to see if we could repair that. It's hard to see in this light, but it's all going through here and across under the fingerboard here a bit. And so when he tried to make adjustments and tune it up and play it, the action was higher and higher, probably because any truss rod adjustments would force this back and open up this joint, and yeah, no good. So checked the guitar over otherwise. Had a plastic, it's a cheap plastic nut. Somebody had flooded a whole ton of super glue down in there and left a bit of a mess. So we're going to clean that out. Got an old bone nut from another guitar. We'll refit it, shape it, address that. The truss rod's working. Frets are not too bad a shape. They need to be cleaned up. There's a couple of high frets, so I think once we get this crack dealt with first, maybe we'll touch up lacquer here on the corners, fix the crack, and the lacquer around here is cracked a little bit. See if we can't dress that a little bit. Dress the frets, crown polish. We have to see what's going on inside here. This pickup's clearly backwards. You know, somebody's taken it out and turned it around. Just typical cheap import bridge here. We're looking at upgrading parts, possibly a little bit nicer, higher mass bridge down the line. Switch is in good shape. Pots are okay. This one is an infinity knob, and again, I don't know if we can see in the light here, but basically the potentiometer, the wire's been completely severed, and the whole thing just spins as you spin that. So we'll fix up the electronics. It's otherwise a very clean guitar. Vacuum it out. I saw some dust bunnies down inside the F-holes. We'll get the pickups out of it, and we'll give it a good clean on the inside. And we'll get her back to rocking and rolling. Stay tuned. As I said previously, an angry ex-wife threw this guitar down a staircase. And rather nasty crack. I was actually surprised that the headstock didn't completely separate and break off. So we're going to get some good old red tight bond and a syringe, which is somewhere in the shop. As soon as I find it, we'll get the syringe and we'll basically inject this area best we can, fill it with this glue. And we're going to clamp with a radius block and clamp it back into place, and should be good as new. Stay tuned. And turn the guitar over on the other side. The fingerboard is separating from the neck along here. Just a little bit of pressure, you can see that. Focus, yeah, there we go. And that's happening down to almost the 3rd fret. So, yeah, we're going to flood underneath that with some glue and clamp that back into place. Boy, good thing she's an ex-wife. It's pretty nasty. So I did not film the actual process of me squeezing glue into the cracks that I showed earlier, but I think most of you could probably figure out how to get glue into a crack. So we worked it down along, used like a 3 just feeler gauge, you know, used about a 3/1000, just kind of a spudger to work it down in there. And I had this old, just a old medicine syringe to kind of help. Would have helped if I had a needle, but I didn't have one handy, so just kind of squirt this stuff down in there. And then work it back and forth a bit, get it to squeeze out the sides, push that squeeze out back in, work it some more. Once that was all done, I put a bottom a neck rest, and then this is a 10-inch radius block, so I put a 10-inch clamp just to get even pressure on here. These two are simply holding the blocks together, and then the real clamping pressure right over the crack is coming from here. And then I just worked out the squeeze out as it came out. I'll probably have to go back and clean up with a razor blade a bit. I did remove the glue. It was since it was cracked along the fretboard edge down to the 3rd fret. Basically the whole fingerboard was lifting off of the whole neck, so I had to work glue up underneath the fingerboard and then along the cracks, kind of gently working it out. Get the glue in, work it back, squeeze it together. I took off the adjusting nut for the truss rod just so we don't accidentally glue it in place. And we'll go ahead and lube that up and fit it back in once this is all set up. Turned around that neck pickup. Somebody had flipped it up backwards. Probably didn't know what they were doing. So taking all this stuff off to clean it up a bit, and I'm going to walk away from this for about 24 hours, just let it cure. And then when it's all done, clamps come off and we'll see what we got. Common thing I see when we have these old guitars that people bring in, they're look, it's not a 60s Gibson 335 or a Epiphone Casino. But the owner of this guitar, it means something to them. In a lot of guitar stores, you'll take the guitar in and they'll look at it and they go, this is a $200 guitar, or this guitar is a piece of junk. And they won't do a good job on it. They'll barely do a setup on it. And I've had guitars myself that were sentimental, and before I knew how to work on guitars, it actually led me to learn to work on guitars because I had taken an instrument in to have set up by a luthier because I basically didn't know what I was doing, and the guitar was buzzing, it didn't play right. And I took it in, and basically they changed the strings and sent it back to me. And any of this junk that was on the guitar, the dust underneath, it was all right there, right as I brought it to them. Just piss poor service. So, and charged me, over $40, I think, to just change strings. That peeved me a bit. So I've got this Never Dull wadding polish, and all I'm doing, as you can see, these old pickups, they're just filthy, and the stuff just gently wiping on, and grab a piece of dry paper towel here, and good as new. You know, see that, and that's, you know, that's a nice touch. And when the owner of this guitar gets it back, it's going to shine like a new guitar. It's going to play with low action, no buzzes. His crack's going to be repaired, and you know, he'll feel like he got a brand new guitar again, and that's what you want. You take a car to a repair shop, and you got to spend, you know, $1,000 on a brake job, and they don't even wash your car. You get it back, it's the same old car, it's filthy, and you're just $1,000 lighter, and it's a very unsatisfying purchase. So I really like to do a nice job cleaning things up, just make it look a little more presentable when it comes out, and that way, you know, the guy gets it back, and hopefully he's happy with the end result there. Take a look at that. Beautiful. It's like new. All right, folks, and now for the moment of glory. We've got this guitar repaired, set up, shined up. Looks like a brand new instrument. Think the owner of this guitar is going to flip? I hope so. Let's see what we did. The angry ex-wife threw the guitar down the stairs. As a result, broke the headstock, cracking down here, separating the fingerboard all the way back to the 3rd fret, and we can't figure out why the neck didn't just completely snap off, but it didn't. So we glued it, clamped it, and that neck is as good as new. The crack is still a little bit visible, but the fix for that, the owner was not real concerned with the finish repair, so we filled that with super glue, and then leveled it out, wet sanded that area, and polished it up, and it's nearly invisible except in this direct light. It's absolutely smooth to the touch. You can't tell that there was any crack or bump there. Put a drop of just black lacquer down here in the hole where the crack was, just to help, you know, make it look a little bit better. Here we took off that piece of junk plastic nut that was on here, and made a new bone nut. Oh yeah, love the sound of a bone nut. Oiled the fretboard, polished the frets, got the truss rod checked, working, relief is set properly. We got the action set up. Yeah, it's nice and low. We turned the pickup back around. Had to fix the wiring. The wiring inside here was an absolute mess. I don't know if it was a factory mess or a former owner mess or current, I don't know. Anyway, this knob was completely, the wires were cut, and this knob was an infinity knob. It would just spin around. There was no lock washer on or anything. Fixed that, rewired that. Now, switch is working. Volume, tone for the treble here. Volume, tone for the bridge. Everything's splendid, working beautifully. I've got the all the junk that was on this finish just from sitting in the closet for years and years. Just use some here. Just use some lighter fluid, or naphtha, basically is what this is, and I cleaned it right up. I started out with the Never Dull wadding polish on the pickups, and then up toward the frets, hit it with the Flitz polish. Actually does a little bit better job. Wipe everything down with a microfiber cloth once we got it clean, using the Meguiar's just quick detailer. No, I don't know why I sprayed all over that. Gonna mess with my bottle. And we have ourselves a brand new guitar, and the owner, I think, is going to be quite pleased with this. Oh yeah, vacuumed out all the dust bunnies out of the F-holes here, and she's back to the prime of her life. Look at that, just absolutely beautiful. The setup here, I'm sorry for the jerky camera work here as I'm moving around. This angle is very important, and there's a bit of controversy over setting up these tailpieces and the best tone if you drive the screws down into the body, and then the tailpiece will vibrate better. And I'm not completely convinced of that, and here's why. This you may get a bit of a tone increase if you're shoving the entire bridge, but really the only contact point is here and here either way, because this bridge is curved, so you're not pushing that entire piece of metal down into the wood. If you are, you're breaking something. So yeah, you might get a bit more transference here, but basically all your vibration transfer is happening here and here through the posts. What's important is this angle right here, and so if this guitar bridge tailpiece, excuse me, is screwed all the way down, the angle of these strings is going to be very acute. In doing that, you've increased the tension across the strings, and the guitar is very, very hard to play. So if you have a softer angle back here, and you kind of have to play with it a little bit as you're setting it up. The bending on these, I put 9-gauge strings on this guitar, and I mean, you can bend it with your pinky. I mean, look at this. I'll use my pinky. I'll just use my pinky here, and there's absolutely like no effort whatsoever on this guitar. It has to do with the careful setup. The action's low. The nut slot is cut properly, and it's just a very, very sweet, easy guitar to play. Overall, I'm very pleased with the outcome of the neck repair, and the guitar cleaned up very nicely, and I'm sure that the owner... Well, I'm quite pleased with the outcome of the neck repair and the other items that we had to accomplish on this 335 style guitar, otherwise known as the Kaman GTX 35. It's quite a rare guitar. It's a beautiful guitar, and I'm glad that the owner didn't trash it when it was broken and just put it in the closet until he could find somebody who could fix it for him. We got it cleaned up. It's rocking and rolling. It sounds great, feels great, plays great, and it's got years to go. And so we've absolved the sins of the angry ex-wife who threw it down the stairs, at least as far as the guitar is concerned. So Marietta Guitar Garage here in Marietta, Georgia. I'm Joe, and appreciate you tuning in and watching my videos. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next project.